and welcome to the Oracle section of today's episode. Let's get into it here. Electric mirror, electric dragon, electric wind, electric star, and spectral night. So what comes up for me here is really taking a look at the mirror in lieu of it being kind of like the existential proportion or reflective nature of that paradigm, maybe the outside of that blueprint or that like the kind of paradigm, that architecture. The dragon and the star, the dragon and the wind, kind of play, I find, a very definitive role. Which is interesting because they're also 1 and 2. We have the dragon, which is like allowing ourselves to activate and drop into that aspect of being that this really portrays in us. And so how does this paradigm become a thing? How the paradigm itself is strictly like a mental nature. And the mentality of a thing rests within the abstract, and so this is kind of just another generalization of that reflective quality of the mirror, and the electric energy running through that. We're in that space, and so it's like, in many ways, the dragon. Two things that come to me. One is the aspect of embodiment, where it's like it's bringing it into a state of being, where it can kind of be identified. And I find this plays with the wind too, because the wind is really saying, okay, let's breathe spirit into it. So it's almost like the dragon is representing the body of it, the body of this paradigm. How is it coming to being? And also the wind is like, okay, as it comes into being, let's bring life into it. Let's breathe the spirit into it. Now, the second thing that the dragon brings up for me is that aspect of nurturing. The giving birth really for me goes with the being, as this paradigm is being birthed into an aspect of our being. And so the nurturing aspect kind of, to me, relates to some of those more jagged aspects of the mirror, like the broken glass, like the changing, as we shift this paradigm, there may be some sharp emotions, there may be some traumas that get unburied, and the dragon's aspect here is like nurturing or shaving off or sanding off or rounding off those edges, making them safe to be, allowing them to become a healthy part of what's going on. Is when within every trauma is actually a treasure. It's trauma treasure. And within that treasure is mostly revealed as we embrace and own that trauma, regardless of it, it has or hasn't been done to us by us, or, it doesn't really matter. Those are all just personal definitions. But as we own and claim that trauma for ourselves, though this may be a vague terminology, we can witness the gift in it, and we can free ourselves from the suffering in it, and we can claim the treasure in it. And so there's much of that aspect which I see here too. Maybe it's like the dragon's hoard in that way. And so we come up a little more closely into the wind, and the wind is really that aspect, like as the spirit kind of comes into the embodiment, there is a natural communication. At one part, it's like the aspect of this paradigm from a purely mental quality of self-reflection, and maybe even the reflected capacity of the witnessing of this paradigm take place in causality. The wind also brings in the breath energy of talking about it, a level of communication with others and not just oneself. And so this is another form of embodiment, because we're recognizing the data and the paradigm and the architecture in living motion on an external wave outside of us, and participating with others in this. And that begins to create this relay. Now, interestingly enough, when we come to the star here, the star to me immediately feels a little more separate. It is the challenging part of the day, and sometimes there's some vagaries around there, and sometimes not. The first thing that usually comes up is just the nature of reflection, self-reflection, on how the star, beckons us to our delicateness. It beckons us to our elegance. It beckons us to our grace. It beckons us to our beauty. And so there may be an inability to really embody that. right now. It may be one of those aspects that's saying, as we're embracing this new paradigm, that there may be, because this is the riddle between the dragon and the star right now, is the dragon really kind of looks like it wants to help that star come into being. It's saying, okay, let's bring this into being, let's round off the edges, let's create a safe place to embody the energy. And the star is like, well, let's embody that in such a way that it is good and it is elegant and it is graceful and it shines with a delicate light that everyone feels safe and nourished by. But because it's the challenging power of the day, activating and creating a bond with that energy may be just that, very challenging. And we may have to accept the energy, that it's like there's energy moving in it, but we may not be able to fully embrace that at this point. It may almost be teasing us, almost like a carrot in front of the horse's mouth, like, hey, I'm this beautiful star energy, and you can see where this wants to go, but it isn't yet. This may just be a glimpse into the future as we look into that reflection and it moves forward. And you witness it in the state that it is. Knowing that you can't necessarily change it, try, go for it, and witness what comes up for yourself and all that. But in the end, allowing it to be as it is. And this comes into the night, releasing those aspects, because the night is the unknown, it is the dream. And so there's parts of this paradigm, especially when we come to the star, and actually all of them, the star, the wind, and the dragon, kind of really speak of bringing it into form, bringing this reflectionism into embodiment. And so for me, the night is like, this is the abstract portions of it, the portion of this paradigm or this architecture that is still highly steeped in the dream, that is still highly steeped in the unknown. That in fact, the paradigm itself, or the mirror, the essence of that mirror, this is also the darkness which the light of the star shines from, is that night energy. And so this one for me is a little hard to describe, because the paradigm that we're speaking of is already kind of an abstract force that's coming into being and is really there to be identified by you. And this is the thing that we're really kind of in service to. And the night aspect is kind of like what we have to let go of to like allow those dreams to come true, that this paradigm may really point towards kind of energy. Yeah. Going into our intuitive aspects, really surrendering into our intuitive aspects so that we can trust and be guided by that natural phenomenon of our intuitive nature. Okay, loving it. Let's move on to the meditation section here.